You are now at the point where you know that you exist in the perfect frequency. You exist now in the perfect frequency. And the result of being as you are in the perfect frequency is the appearance of personal magnetism, the appearance of flow. Everything appears to flow. You appear to be magnetic. That is a natural result of being. Thus I titled today's conversation, Mind Map, Stop Trying to Be in the Perfect Frequency. Stop trying to be in the perfect frequency. As that would imply that there is a person that is not already in the perfect frequency in mind that needs to do this or that in order to be in the perfect frequency. It is known in the silence as you abide as you are in that still I am presence, that those thoughts that suggest the need to do this or that in order to be in the perfect frequency do not exist. What also does not exist is the thinker of those illusory thoughts. All that remains in the silence is you in the perfect frequency. Now, the natural result of being is all these things: personal magnetism, flow, harmonious relationships, whatsoever things ye desired, all these things naturally and spontaneously added unto you. It is known that all these things of love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment are the result of pure being in the silence. Thus, as I posted on my Instagram recently, I said, I can take no path to be as I am. Or as I say sometimes, I can do nothing to be as I am. I can stop trying to be as I am. I do not need to do this or that to be as I am. And the natural result of that is what we can point to and say, magnetic being, personal magnetism. All these things spontaneously added onto you, all these symbols of being, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, spontaneously added onto you, as also articulated in Matthew 6:33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. It's articulating the point that although the individual may be identified with this person in mind, although it could appear that this person is real in mind, and thus if identified with, the individual does this or that in order to be, as you abide as you are in that still I am presence, it is known clearly that that person is not real. One could even say then, you could do nothing to find the kingdom of God. You can exist and find the kingdom of God. Presence is enough. Being is enough. Existing is enough. Pure consciousness, pure existence that transcends the thoughts that suggest separation from being is the being I am. It is the being that you are, which exists in the perfect frequency. So then what real need is there to try to be in the perfect frequency? What need is there to seek the kingdom when the kingdom is yours. You're at that point now. Maybe before you found it to be helpful, yet now you don't do those things. And so, abiding as you are in the perfect frequency, these kinds of thoughts that suggest lack or limitation or not being are not identified with. They are known clearly to appear to disappear, as they do not represent you. So why would you entertain them? The natural result of this is personal magnetism, flow. So, I am is being. The natural result of being, pure being, is flow. Flow is thus the natural result of being. Personal magnetism, or appearances which we can point to and say, that is a magnetic being, is the natural result of pure being, not identified with thoughts that suggest lack, limitation, not being, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, everything that this person was seeking for outwardly, it is found inwardly, in the silence. What else explains the love, the happiness, the peace, the bliss, the fulfillment that permeates the body? In the silence. That must indicate, without doubt, that you have found the kingdom. You have found the eternal source of that. Pure awareness is the doorway to the source of unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which also appears to manifest spontaneously for you. People may come up to you and say, you're being very magnetic. You have a very magnetic being or magnetic personality. Now, what I teach is to not form an identity around those statements. And what I mean by that very specifically, if a person then identifies with what a person says or does in a way that suggests the person in mind is the doer of the personal magnetism, then they may then go seeking for particular conditions to be met in order to be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, in order to exist in peace, in bliss, in fulfillment, in happiness, in love. And as we've been discussing, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment is the natural feeling, the manifestation of being. So, if the person now forms confirmation bias, as in the person is suggesting that only if these conditions are met, then they are magnetic. But if these conditions are not met, then they are not magnetic. Then they need to try to be in the perfect frequency again. They need to try to be magnetic again because they lost the personal magnetism. They have lost being in that frequency, which is illusory. All of that is mental phenomena generated by that person in mind, which is not real. That is the result of identification to this other person suggesting that they are magnetic, and now this person says, look at me, I am magnetic. And this person might say, because of this or because of that. And the person appears to think that it is the doer of the personal magnetism, when it is not the doer of personal magnetism. I can of myself do nothing, the Father would then do it the work. So I don't form an identity around what people say. Personal magnetism, flow, is the natural result of being. It happens naturally, beyond these reasons. Another example would be, let's say, if a person makes a lot of money, and then someone comes up to him, or a whole bunch of people come up to him and say, wow, you're a big success now, because you drive this car, you live in this house, and all these things. So now they form a personal identity around these material objects or these appearances. Now let's say the market fluctuates. Their investment portfolio goes down. Now they think that they lack something. They think that they lack happiness because their happiness was seemingly based on what appears to be their net worth or whatever kind of possessions, etc. When we have seen many times that if the markets were to fluctuate and go down maybe 5% or whatever, there are still opportunities. There are investments that the individual can move into that appear, we've seen this happen many times, when the markets go down. But they don't allow themselves to see those opportunities because they're clouding reality or distorting reality through that personal identity, which is illusory. And that personal identity is made up of beliefs. The person, through identification, confirmation bias, looks for particular conditions to be met to suggest that then they can be fulfilled, because they have formed an identity around the appearances. Maybe it was what they were thinking once they got the material possessions. Now they can say they made it in life. What is being proposed here is that all of us exist now in the perfect frequency, not because of this or that reason. You are already that. And yes, all these things are spontaneously added onto you, yet the personal identity is not the doer of the works. The doer of the works is beyond the personal identity. How do you know? The doer of the works, which cannot be limited by concepts, which cannot be limited by interpretations, cannot be limited by whatever kind of theories. The doer of the works, as stated in the Bible, my ways are past finding out. So all these things happen spontaneously. So with respect to flow, if the individual did not form an identity around these appearances, although people may point to this individual and describe this personal identity, but that individual is not identified with these descriptions, and they remain unaffected by appearances. Because they know certainly that the source of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment is within, and they are already that. Thus they access the infinite source of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment within, without the need for conditions to be placed upon consciousness or in mind to determine that only if things appear in a particular way, then they can experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So they stop trying to be in a perfect frequency. They stop trying to be magnetic. They stop trying to be in this high vibration because they know that they are already that. And they are that regardless of what people say. Whether the person says you are great or not great, you are magnetic, you are not magnetic, it does not matter, because you know who you are. And so you don't form a personal identity around these appearances, which are biases, which then, if these conditions are met, then you can experience the being you are. And if they're not met, then you cannot experience the being you are. You see how that is illusory. Everlasting, what we can point to and say, flow or magnetic being, is the natural result of being. And you can take no path to be as you are. You don't need to do this or that in order to be, as I posted on my Instagram the other day. I said, I can take no path to be as I am. As in, I don't need to do this or that in order to be as I am. I am. That's it. The person in mind, which is illusory, seeming to suggest, what am I? Who am I? Goes inward, inquire into the source being I am. I go inward and arrive at the result. The result is being, pure being. I dissolve, you could say. I dissolve into the source being, I am. And then we can say it this way, I reemerge as true I. In the Bible it says, therefore if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Well, I witness unconditionally the appearances, and not because of this or that condition. People may point to me or point to you and say, you are unconditionally loving, peaceful, blissful, happiness, fulfillment, or magnetic. Everything happens for you spontaneously. Everything you touch turns to gold. And you know you're not trying to do things in order to be like that. That would be trying to be magnetic, which is illusory. You are already that which you desire to be. Being as you are, pure consciousness, existing now as perfection, everything appears to be in harmony. You don't judge by appearances. So if I say, don't judge by appearances, it could sound like a force-based thing to do. Stop judging by appearances. Actually, the natural result of knowing who you are is not judging by appearances, just as the natural result of knowing who you are is flow. The natural result of knowing who you are is personal magnetism. Because you know that you are completely fulfilled. As we discussed in Sunday's video, if you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. Existence is enough. Presence is enough. Being is enough. As you know that you are enough, you know certainly that you exist now in the perfect frequency, where there is no lack, no limitation, as also stated in the Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I shall not want to be magnetic, because that would imply that I am not magnetic. I shall not want love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, as that would imply that I am not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And again, it's not a shaming and condemning thing. It's not me telling you, you should stop. You should stop it. No, that's illusory. That would suggest that I imagine you to not be already who you are, which is illusory. What is pointed to is that you are already that. So when it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, it's knowing who you are. That is the result. I shall not want. I shall not want is the result of being. I shall not seek is the result of being. So it's interesting when it says, but seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. It means the inverted mind is being made upright to be unaffected by appearances. It means acknowledging now by doing nothing. That's what I mean by I can take no path to be as I am. Abiding in the silence, you know who you are. That love, that happiness, that peace, that bliss, that fulfillment permeates the body and permeates the mind as well. Philippians 4:8, whatsoever things are true, lovely, good rapport, honest, think upon these things. It's not like you're trying to think upon these things. Those thoughts, those ways that we relate to being, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, are the fruits of God. They spontaneously arise. And so do the appearances of personal magnetism. Because, I exist, I am enough. Presence, I am enough. Being, I am enough. You exist, enough. Exist, complete. Exist, love. Existence is love. Existence is happiness. Existence is peace. Existence is bliss. Existence is fulfillment. So, what can I want then? The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. It's the natural result of being. That's what I mean by, I can take no path to be as I am. So that statement of seek ye first the kingdom, we can relate to it harmoniously and accurately by saying, you are already that. You are in the kingdom. You do nothing to abide as you are in that still I am presence. In that still I am presence, which is the presence of God, it is felt undeniably. Whatsoever things ye desire, you are that. Whatsoever things ye desire, I am. I have. The feeling is undeniable. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I stop trying to be in the perfect frequency. All those kinds of doing this and that in order to be is not required, as stated in Psalm 46:10. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. What appearance of this world can be greater than that presence of God? Can be more desirable, we can say it that way, than the presence of God, which you experience by doing nothing. The fruits of that is personal magnetism. It's flow. Yet, to be even more nuanced, I do not do it for that reason. I do not do nothing to be in flow. I do not do nothing to be magnetic. No condition. Why? Why no condition? Why does there need to be a condition to be you? A condition in order to be you is an illusory thought. And abiding as you are in that still I am presence, that illusory thought does not appear in mind because it does not represent you. And the illusory thinker of that thought does not appear in mind as well. And being is simple. By that it is meant, being is simple. You could do nothing to be. You could just be. You do not identify with the thoughts of needing to do this or that in order to be in the perfect frequency, because you know you are in the perfect frequency, and nobody can come up to you and say, you are not in the perfect frequency, because it would be illusory for you to suggest that a person can come up to you and suggest that you are not in the perfect frequency, and then all of a sudden you doubt yourself that you are not in the perfect frequency, because ultimately only God alone exists. So there's no person appearing to be in opposition. And by that I mean very specifically, it can only be imagined. It can only be imagined what the meaning is of what a person says to you. So if I say this or that to you, whatever it may be, you imagine what it means to you. Now, as you know who you are, how can you imagine otherwise? How can you imagine not being? Even if I say to you, you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You cannot imagine that. That it means what I say, that you are not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. It's not like you're trying to ignore me. You're not trying to argue with me. No matter what I say to you that seems to suggest you are not is illusory. Because only in mind can the person in mind identify with thoughts that suggest in relation to what a person says, I am not magnetic. But does magnetic being depend on appearances, what a person says, what a person does, etc.? It does not. Magnetic being is the natural result of pure being. Unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, not affected by appearances. Now, interestingly, nobody appears to say that. Why would they say that? What would you possibly say if they would say that? Well, you may say nothing. You may say this, you may say that, yet inwardly you know the truth. Regardless of what you read in a book or a video or a person saying this or that, only you can imagine what it means to you. And as you know that you are already all that you desire to be, that you have what you desire, you found it in yourself. Or we can say it this way, you found it within yourself, or you found it in yourself, or I like to say found it as yourself, as yourself. You are that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. How do you know, Joseph, that you are that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment? How do I know that I am that love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment? Well, the person in mind suggests that a condition or an appearance needs to be there in order to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, or being magnetic, or you name it, whatsoever things you desire. Yet, why does that need to be there? It's conditioning that only appears in mind. And as you are beyond that conditioning, you can choose to identify with it or not. If I choose not to identify with it, what remains? You remain. You exist. And as you remain, as you exist, as you, as I say sometimes, as I be as I am, what naturally is the result of that? What naturally happens? Well, thoughts appear in mind, imaginal activity from the premise of truth, knowing that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, as Philippians 4:8 states, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. It's not like you're trying to think these things. When it says think upon those things, we can look at it now as that's the natural result of being. And in the body, it is felt love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason, beyond reason, not because of this or that condition. Then I know certainly that I am this love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that I was seeking for. That was beyond this void that I thought I was. The lack of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. It turns out as I abide as I am in that still I am presence, I am devoid of separation from love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And what permeates the mind, permeates the body, and appears as personal magnetism or being in flow. What you say, what you don't say, body language, etc. The natural result of being. The natural result of being is simply being. So, the joy of simply existing. You exist. Enough. That's what I mean by stop trying to be in the perfect vibration. Everything appears to be in harmony with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive, as you do not identify with the illusory thoughts that suggest otherwise. You know this. I have so many conversations with people every single week, and everybody reports this to me, as I don't identify with those illusory thoughts of not being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Sure enough, it does appear as symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. People coming up to me and saying, you are an effective leader. You are this, you are that. Yet I also teach, don't form an identity around those appearances. The person in mind is not the doer of these things. The person in mind deludes themselves to think that they are the doer of these things. That is reality. Reality is perfect as it is now. That's what I mean by you are perfect as you are now. You can stop trying to be in the perfect frequency because you are already that, which we can call perfect frequency or perfect being, pure being. You are already that, and it appears to unfold as all these things added onto you. So how do you practically seek ye first the kingdom and all these things are added onto you? Seek ye first the kingdom. You know who you are. You are that pure consciousness beyond the body, beyond the thoughts, beyond the appearances of physical phenomena in this world, mental phenomena. You exist and abide as you are. And what happens? Not only do you know that you transcend these appearances, the mental phenomena, the body, the world, etc., you also know that you are not in conflict with them. You are not in conflict with mind. You are not in conflict with emotions. You are not in conflict with body. You are not in conflict with world. As love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment permeates mind, permeates body, you can then say you are in love with these thoughts, with your mind, with the world. I am in happiness with these thoughts, with this mind, with this body, with this world. I am at peace with this mind, with these thoughts, with these body, with this world, with the appearances. I am in bliss with, I am in fulfillment with. And inner and outer are experienced as one. As absolutely, ultimately, only God alone exists. So thus, that proves the point that you are already in the perfect frequency and the manifestations of being in harmony, being in love with, happiness with, peace with, bliss with, fulfillment with, is what we can point to an individual that lives like this and say, they are being magnetic. They are divine presence manifested into form. And what are they doing? They do nothing, actually. You can ask them. They'll say to you, I do nothing. They may say, I'm just me. Or they may even say something like, I don't know what I'm doing, or something like that. Maybe wondering why you're asking this question, because it is so obvious. Being is so obvious. Being is simple. You can do nothing to be. So to prove the point again, the person in mind suggests, which is an illusory person, not real. The illusory self that is not real. Thus, no self is actually true self, being itself, existence itself, love itself, happiness itself, peace itself, bliss itself, fulfillment itself. And the natural result of being is flow, harmonious relationships, etc. Even, for example, I released a video on my new YouTube channel where I speak exclusively about entrepreneurship. If you're interested in that, I'll link to this video that I'm referring to. And a question was asked about how does one relate harmoniously to these business terms like prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, etc. Stuff that I talk about when I articulate entrepreneurship. If those terms sound manipulative, it may sound like you need to do this or that in order to get. It sounds very transactional. And I said, prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, and all of these things in entrepreneurship, like personal magnetism, like love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, appearances, naturally happen. We can point to them and call it lead generation, prospecting, client acquisition. All those things happen naturally because you're not taking from another person. It's not like you're going up to them and saying, give me your money, or trying to convince them to get money. Who is there to convince? What other person is there to take from? As absolutely only God alone exists. Thus, everyone appears to be in perfect harmony. The theater of entrepreneurship is played out that way. Prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition. Yet you're not trying to do those things. You're not trying to. We talked about a whole bunch of examples of what it could look like. I'll link in the description to that video. The way is flow. You naturally go about it your way. And that's what I mean by your way is the best way. It doesn't mean my way is better than your way is better than my way. Now, because I think that I got results upon connecting the dots, looking backwards in my entrepreneurial journey. I've been an entrepreneur full-time since 2009, and I did prospecting this way, or I did lead generation this way, I did client acquisition this way. That you must do it this exact formula that I did. This is the blueprint. You must follow it this way, otherwise it's not going to work. That's illusory. To prove the point, I've consulted with thousands of businesses, and I've seen thousands and thousands of ways of prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition that were effective, not based on conjecture or theory, that were highly effective. Yet, when we get to the core of what's going on, those things are the natural result of being. Just as personal magnetism, what you say, what you don't say, body language, etc., natural result of being. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, natural result of being. So being without the need for interference is what we can call the absolute way, the way of the absolute. Everything happens spontaneously in flow. I can't imagine you don't get it in flow. You always get it in flow, as you know that the thinker of doubt and resistance is not real. God does it all without doubt or resistance. That's what I mean by dissolve that illusory thinker that thinks itself to be the doer. You can actually do nothing to dissolve that illusory thinker as well. Because what I mean by that is simply being, abiding as you are in that still I am presence, magnetic being in the perfect frequency, being as you are. You can do nothing to be as you are. Everything happens. In the presence of God, even mind purification happens in the presence of God. How do we know that it happens in the presence of God? Well, you experience it. You will fear no this or that outward appearance because you are unmoved by appearances. Magnetic being, or a person that's magnetic, does not appear to be moved by appearances. They do not have an identity around appearances, what a person says, what a person does, to determine whether they're magnetic or not. That is illusory. I can of myself do nothing. The Father within doeth the work. Why do I, as in Joseph, need to worry about things? Why do I need to identify with this or that in order to get or imagine what a person says or does, or environment, etc., news, whatever I read, to be a limitation upon me? Only I can imagine that, and that's illusory. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So not wanting is the natural result of being. It's the natural result of being, and you can take no path to be. There is no path to be, actually. We can call that direct path or no path. You simply know you are that still I am presence that transcends the appearances. There you are, in the silence, in the stillness. And the result of that is flow. The result of that is personal magnetism. The result of that is all these things added onto you. What did you do? You did nothing. Now, just as you can do nothing to be as you are, and the result of that is magnetism and flow, while you're sitting, let's say I'm sitting right now in my office recording this, you can be as you are and not identify with illusory thoughts. And the natural manifestation of that is personal magnetism while in conversations with people. So when we're talking about earlier about prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, if a person identifies with thoughts of limitation in relation to these areas, they may think that this is about convincing, strong-arming, forcing a person. Look, a person can do that if they would like, but it's not required. As I had mentioned, prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, whatever it is, making videos, building a business, working with teams in a harmonious way is the natural result of harmonious being and knowing in the silence, in the stillness, that there is no other. There are no thus illusory thinkers. They do not exist. There is no seeker for the kingdom, as you have found the kingdom, and it is known in the silence, in the stillness, in flow, while being magnetic, which is simply being as you are, that there is no other to be in conflict with. That only God alone exists in the silence. And as only God alone exists, how can there be another person who's in conflict with my frequency and their frequency and my state and their state and what they do and I do? And none of that exists in the silence. That kind of mental phenomena, the thinking I versus you, this versus that, is proven experientially to be not real. Which is why I also say, while in flow, and we know this, anandamide is released, the bliss molecule. So it's said to facilitate lateral being, which is a reconciliation of divergent and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking is seeing things from many different perspectives, open to possibilities. If a person is identified with divergent thinking being the only way, they may be confused in mind from all these divergent perspectives. Confusion in mind, which is illusory. You are not confused. Identification to the thoughts in mind seem to suggest that you are confused, yet you are not confused because, as we said, you exist beyond these thoughts. You are that pure consciousness that witnesses these thoughts lovingly. I am in love with these thoughts. The same can be said about convergent thinking, which is well-established solutions, logical thinking, seeing things that have worked before and doing it again. The natural result of flow is not convergent thinking versus divergent thinking or divergent thinking versus convergent thinking. That's illusory. That, again, suggests this versus that. And in reality, it is known in the silence that ultimately only God alone exists. So how could there be divergent thinking and convergent thinking in conflict in mind then? Only the person in mind, if identified with, seems to be in conflict with divergent thinking and convergent thinking. While in flow, anandamide is released, is said to reconcile divergent and convergent thinking. And as we also said, flow is the natural result of being. You can do nothing to be in flow. You can relax into the flow. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in his book, Flow, talks about how during challenge, an individual acquires skill. They relax during the challenge, whatever it may be, skill cultivation, they experience flow. They stop trying to be this or that while experiencing challenge. Like, there's no problem with chaos. There's no problem with challenge. I bring order to chaos. I bring chaos to order. And I don't do it, actually. To think that the person in mind, or Joseph is the doer of the works, is to then form an identity. And look at me, I can do this, I can do that. Yet all of a sudden, I try to, let's say, show off. Is that magnetic? Does a magnetic being need to show off or try to impress people or look around to see if other people are looking at them when they're being magnetic so that they can confirm this personal identity, which is confirmation bias of magnetic being? No, absolutely not. The mind has gone inward. It acknowledges that existence is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, everything that I desire, the source of fulfillment. So the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall not need. I shall not need to do this or that, want to do this or that in order to be, for I know that I am already in the kingdom, abiding in the kingdom, witnessing. I witness the play of God. And yes, the individuals may point to it and say, that's personal magnetism, or that's flow, or while you're prospecting, lead generation, etc., the conversations, this flow. How do you do it? The person may say, let's copy their body language. Let's copy what they say. Let's model after them. And although modeling can be helpful, I studied NLP modeling for many years. If a person forms an identity around doing those things, and if they don't work, they think they're doing something wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. Who is the you that's doing something wrong? This person, the personal identity that seems to be in control, is illusory. It does not exist, abiding as you are in that still I am presence, from which everything happens naturally. If we model after individuals and form an identity around what they do, the way they think, we might miss the point. The point is being. The point transcends, actually, the most effective in prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, etc., that I have found. Know who they are. Whether they can articulate it this way, maybe they don't use terms like personal magnetism, etc., but interestingly, I have had conversations with them and I said, this is how I define personal magnetism. This is how I define charisma. This is how I define, etc., effective communicator. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I do those things, but I didn't know it was called that. Like they had no idea it was called that. And even then, when I say, you don't do these things, you are not the doer of these things, they say, oh, you know what? I know what you mean. It feels like in the moment, I don't do it. It's being done. I don't actually do the sales. It's being done. I just show up. I don't even just show up. Everything happens or something like that. It's very interesting. It's very interesting that everyone that I speak to points to this. They stop trying to be in the perfect frequency. You stop trying to be in the perfect frequency, as you already know that you are that. You stop seeking for outward love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, because you know that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and you experience it with wonderful conversations, wonderful harmonious relationships. There's no conflict in mind. There's no conflict with thoughts. There's no conflict with emotions. There's no conflict with people, etc., because that would imply this versus that, which is dichotomous thinking based on dichotomous beliefs that belong to, again, what the Bible refers to as the old man, which is not real. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, personal magnetism is the result of being, the natural result of being. Flow, thus, is the natural result of being. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment with appearances, with relationships, with environments is the natural result of pure being. And as I know that I can do nothing to be as I am, I simply remain as all these things of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment appear to be magnetically added onto me in flow. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.